Hi guys, it's Victoria, and today we are finally doing my February and March wrap-up. February I only read 2 books, but March I read 6 books, so I sort of made up for it there. One of the books I read in February was the second book in the Earthsea trilogy. Nope, not a trilogy, I keep saying that, it's a series. And the second book is entitled The Tombs of Atuan. And this book series is by the very well-loved and well-known Ursula K. Le Guin. I'm having a blast reading these. I think these are so excellent and so deep. There's so much to get out of them. This book actually takes a break from being from Ged's perspective, and we meet a female character named Tenar. And she is living in a society where they basically pick a child to guard the tombs of Atuan. And there's a bunch of kind of dark and creepy things that go along with this. Tenar is supposed to guard the tombs of Atuan and all the treasures that are hidden inside this like underground labyrinth kind of thing. And one day, Ged breaks in and she finds Ged wandering around trying to steal the ring of Aerith something. Aerith Akbe. She gets to know him a little bit and they kind of form a friendship, and our story unfolds from there. This book has some very strong feminist themes, which I really appreciated and loved, and it was really fun to read those. And Tenar is a character who you see tons of growth, and even in her growth you see a lot of her kind of struggles between what she knows and what she thinks is right. I think that more people should read these. I think these are highly underrated, and so I would highly recommend the Earthsea series so far. I'm really excited to get to book 3. The next book that I read in February was Black Leopard Red Wolf by Marlon James. This one was honestly a bit of a letdown. For as much work as this took to read, I didn't really get the payoff in the end. In fact, if anything, this book really frustrated me. I was expecting so much more from this and so much more coherency, but at the end of the day, this suffers from really poor editing. This needs, I think, a lot more revision than it got. But let's talk about the synopsis first. So in this book, we're following our main character named Tracker. Tracker is sort of a renegade, mercenary kind of person. He has a tragic upbringing. He is very much a man trying to find himself, and he responds to things with violence and just kind of brute force. He's just a brute force kind of a man. Tracker gets recruited on a sort of mysterious mission to find a child, a missing child. And he doesn't ask a lot of questions at first, but as he continues on his journey trying to find this missing child, questions arise. This has many fascinating fantasy characters and African folklore characters, which one of the rewarding things about reading this book was actually Googling some of these African folklore mythological creatures and learning about them and the history of Africa. So I really enjoyed that part of this. Some themes that are especially difficult to read and really hit you over the head is the theme of violence and physical violence against others, and the way in which physical violence is used to control people or oppress people. I have nothing wrong with that idea and presenting that in a book. It's just that it was so frequent, it became a little bit pointless, honestly. I didn't know why these things were happening. I didn't know why I was reading about terrible thing after gruesome violence, and it just seemed like after a while there was no point in that other than like shock value. And when you read something over and over, like a rape scene on every other page, it kind of, I don't know, it kind of loses the effect that I think he was trying to have. I don't know. I know this is an unpopular opinion because this is, I think, a very popular book and a bestseller, and Marlon James is obviously a very talented writer, but I don't think that this really gets across all the messages that he wanted it to, because it's just very convoluted at times. Marlon James himself said that that was kind of his point of the book, was you're supposed to be a little bit in a dream state. You're supposed to be kind of lost for a lot of it. Unfortunately, I think you have to have something to ground your readers. And for way too much of this book, there was really nothing. And again, I'm really not sure what I was supposed to get out of this. Because I think there's so many amazing things happening in this, like diversity, an African fantasy. I was so excited about those things, but it just wasn't executed well in my opinion. So I ended up rating this kind of middle of the road, 3 stars, which was, I don't know, I'm still struggling with that rating. It's gonna be hard for me to come to terms with this book because I think it does a lot of important things, but I did not enjoy reading this book. After reading that book, I needed something lighter, and since it was middle grade March, luckily I had some middle grade on my TBR. And so I read the next 2 in the Chronicles of Narnia. This year I'm rereading them. Really though, it's almost like I'm reading them for the first time because the last time I read them, I was a child and I didn't remember a lot of details. So it's kind of like I'm reading these for the first time, but we'll count them as rereads anyways. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is book 2 in the series, kind of, but really it's book 1. And it's such a great classic. There's a reason I loved these as a kid, and that's because they're so imaginative and the characters are warm and fuzzy. This book is about a group of 4 children who find a magical portal in a wardrobe. They go to the back of the wardrobe and they're in Narnia. And this is the beginning of their adventures. 5 stars, as always, because I'm biased and I can't not love this. The next book I read in the series was The Horse and His Boy. This takes a detour away from Susan and Peter and Edmund and Lucy and goes into another realm of Narnia, another land in the world. And I think it's Calormen. I did the audiobook for this, and that was maybe why I didn't enjoy it as much. I gave this 4 stars, not because I think it's a bad book, but it's because I think there's a lot going on and it's not always cohesive. This is set in the golden age of Narnia, so at this point the children who we met in the previous book are kings and queens of Narnia, and they are the benevolent protectors of the land and everything is well in Narnia. But in Calormen, things are not so well. There's some oppression, there's some slavery. We follow Shasta, who is essentially a slave when we meet him, and it is revealed to him through a talking horse that he's not actually meant to be there, and he's actually a kid from Narnia, and he's really going to be better off in Narnia. And the horse and him run away from his enslavers, and they go on an adventure from there trying to get to Narnia. I really liked the expansion of the world and being in somewhere other than Narnia, but I felt lost for some of the time. So that's basically all I'm trying to say here. Another book I read for middle grade March was Revolution is Not a Dinner Party by Ying, Chang, Compestine. This I did really enjoy. I have to say, I can't recommend the audiobook. The audiobook does a weird thing where the narrator does not have a Chinese accent, but the characters, when they're quoting other characters, they do have a Chinese accent. And sometimes that Chinese accent seemed kind of offensive and very affected from this white person who was probably narrating the book. And it was just kind of a weird thing to have the main character was narrating and didn't have a Chinese accent, but everyone else did. But the main character's Chinese. I don't know. It was a weird audiobook experience. So I would probably read the physical copy if I were you, but I did really love this. It was very powerful. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This book is about 9-year-old Ling, and it's set in 1970s at the very beginning of the Chinese Cultural Revolution. And that would be like the reign of Chairman Mao and communism. This is a very turbulent and dark time in Chinese history, and this was really sad to read, especially when you see it from a 9-year-old's perspective and she watches the paranoia of the world and her family members kind of being taken one by one from her. There's a sense of paranoia that someone is in your family may say the wrong thing and be just taken away by the military forces the next day. You really feel for Ling as you see what she goes through and what her family goes through. And yeah, it was a powerful read. I just wish I had read the physical copy. I think I would have enjoyed it more. In March, I also did a couple buddy reads with some people. And the first buddy read I'm going to talk about is this one. It is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. I read this book with Angie. Her channel is Literary Labors. I'll link her down below if you want to check her out. She's an excellent booktuber. and very sweet person. I personally had a lot of fun reading this book. This book is narrated by our character, Mary Catherine Blackwood, and in the book she goes by Mary Cat for short. Mary Cat lives in a large house with only her sister and her uncle. Her sister Constance and her uncle Julian. As you meet her at first, she seems like sort of a normal 18-year-old girl, but the more we read from her, we realize, not all is right here. She is a little bit demented, she says some weird things, she thinks some weird things. When you meet this family, you also realize that the town is really persecuting them, and they're really quite cruel to this family. And you're basically learning why that is. Angie and I had a really good time reading this together. I would definitely recommend this if you're looking for a kind of creepy but short read. This is only about 146 pages in this edition, so very easy to blast through. The other buddy read I had in March was The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling, and I read this with Alex Black, and her channel is linked below as well. Another just excellent booktuber. She's so articulate and I love watching her booktube videos. This was J.K. Rowling's first adult book ever. So this was kind of her first go at it after Harry Potter. I wasn't sure about this book at first, but I did end up thinking it was really well written. It's a very depressing story, but it's very well done. And J.K. Rowling really proves herself as a master of character development in this one. This is all about the characters and barely about the plot. However, when things get interesting, they really get interesting very quickly, but it takes a really long time for that to happen. This book is about a town called Pagford. It's a very small town who has recently lost a very important figure named Barry Fairbrother. Already forgot the names of the characters. Barry Fairbrother. He was a councilman and he was very influential in the town and kind of keeping things together. And when he dies, some very interesting dynamics kind of float to the top as these characters are dealing with his death. You're following a lot of characters. This is a huge cast. At first I had a really hard time of keeping track of everybody. I kind of felt like there was too much and I couldn't remember who was who. Some of the couples especially were really similar. And then you also have this whole cast of their kids and teenagers and the things that their kids are going through. And also the ways that their parents are failing them. If you like character-driven novels, if you like to dissect people, and if you want to be really steeped in a gritty reality and you don't mind a little bit of sadness in your reading life, because this is pretty sad. It's a sad book. It's a little bit depressing seeing everyone's issues and everyone just kind of being a terrible person. There's not a lot of likable characters in this book. Most of them are pretty terrible. If you like that, then you're gonna love this. And of course, J.K. Rowling is just a really talented writer in general, and she pulls it off really well. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. After that read, I really needed something more upbeat, and I was so happy that I picked up The Lightning Thief by Riordan. This is my first Riordan book I've ever read, and I'm in love. This is so much fun. It was so just light and fluffy and easy to read and hilarious. This is a very funny book, and after reading The Casual Vacancy, I really needed that and I really appreciated that. This book is about when Greek gods have babies with humans. So we have a bunch of people roaming the earth who are half god and half human. Our main character, Percy Jackson, finds out he's one of those and is swept off to a camp for these people, like a summer camp. What I loved about this book is that there's a lot of humor both for adults and for kids. I think no matter how old you are, you can love this and enjoy this. This is just one that I would love to give to my future children someday, whoever you are. After I finished this, I went right away and I bought the rest of the series, so I will be continuing very, very soon. Those are all the books that I read in February and March. I really had a great couple months of reading and I'm really thankful for that. Let me know if you've read any of these or if you plan to read any of these. Thank you so much for watching my video, and also I recently have been hitting around 200 subscribers. I just want to say thank you to the recent subscribers that I've gotten and also to the original subscribers that I've gotten. I never thought I would get 200 people who wanted to watch me blab on about books. So I've been making some great friends here on BookTube and just having a great time with it. And so thank you for being here with me. I hope you're having a great day and I hope you're reading something awesome. Until next time, bye-bye.